Welcome to the Visionary Sister Circle with Dr. L, a space for women who are ready to heal, evolve, and rise into their power, rooted, whole, and unapologetically aligned. Here, we honor truth. Here, we honor transformation. And it is here where we honor every woman who has ever carried more than her fair share and still found a way to stand. I want to call on the spirits of my ancestors today to say thank you. Thank you for paving the way. Thank you for aligning me. And thank you for giving me the strength to push forward to launch this podcast. Today is a special day. It's special because this podcast is launching on my grandmother's birthday, my Nana Stit. And that is not an accident. It's alignment and it is intentional. This first episode is dedicated to the women whose stories have shaped me, saved me, and birthed my purpose. Growing up, I watched women around me survive things that would have broken entire communities. And here's the truth: some women are called strong because they had no choice. Some women became warriors because survival demanded it. And some women, like the ones I'll tell you about today, carry generations on their backs. I'm sure there are plenty of you out there who have women in your lives who have the same stories or very similar. So this episode is for them and for every woman listening who has inherited both trauma and resilience. Let me begin with the birthday girl, my paternal grandmother, Frances Stitt. My grandmother was fierce. She wasn't loud and not dramatic, but very powerful in the kind of way that rests in a woman's bones. She worked hard, sacrificed, protected, nurtured, and life made her tough because it had to. There was a time when she was mugged and beaten so badly, right in the St. Nicholas projects in our beloved Harlem. At that time, drugs were heavy on the streets and folks were doing anything for a fix. She was attacked by two young guys on an elevator who left her with a few broken ribs, terrible bruises, and a few days in the hospital. My dad and my Aunt Bernadette found her at the door after she managed to drag herself home. My grandmother survived. She healed, and she kept going. She kept fighting for Harlem, for our community, hosting community Christmas parties and giving away Thanksgiving meals. Nothing could stop her from her love of her beloved Harlem, which has fed into my spirit. Harlem was a place where she helped to usher community members to political offices like Charlie Rangel, David Dinkins, and Denny Farrell. Fun fact, David Dinkins delivered my grandmother's eulogy at her funeral. My grandmother was a fighter, and even when she was broken, she kept loving, feeding, giving, and showing up for her community and her family. And many of you listening know this story because in some ways it's yours too. It's your mother's, it's your grandmother's and aunties, the women who were wounded but still refused to fall. And I honor her today, and I'm so thankful for her presence in my life. And I'm thankful that I am able to share her story with you. Then there's my mother, powerful in her own right. And if you knew Carrie Lee, you knew the strength in her spirit. When I was in high school, my mother was stabbed in our building, right there in the place where she was supposed to feel safe. And she fought off her attacker with nothing but her big, heavy purse. I know many of y'all know that. Her loud voice and pure courage. She told us that the man stood at the entrance of the building waiting to be buzzed in, casually singing, "We Are the World." He didn't live there. but someone let him in anyway. And as she said, as she watched him pull out the knife and lunge towards her, she gathered her strength in some kind of way. He managed to stab her twice, in her upper arm and under her arm near her ribs. But even bleeding, she screamed with everything she had. I remember vividly the neighbors telling me they heard her all the way upstairs to at the fifth floor. Her voice was so loud and so powerful that his punk ass panicked and ran. He stabbed 3 women that night. One was fatally stabbed. But this is the type of things that women in our lives have had to deal with. But getting back to my mom, so neighbors came out of their apartments, they called 911, they were trying to stop the bleeding. But here's the crazy thing. My sister and I were in a cab coming back from my grandmother's house, and we had no idea that the ambulance which was just a few cars in front of us, was carrying our mother to Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, the very hospital where I was born. And here's the part that still humbles me. She, afterwards, after she was able to get through the process, and I don't remember my mother really wallowing too much, and I don't remember her really, having problems coming in and out of the building after too long. We accompanied her, my cousins, my girlfriends, as much as we could, but she continued to move forward. But she told us later that the terror that she faced wasn't necessarily in the knife that was used, but because she would play cowboys and Indians with her cousins, her male cousins, and they taught her how to fight. But it was knowing that her children could have been the ones walking through the door instead of her. When I think about it, my mother protected us, even in the middle of violence, even while she was fighting for her life, the way so many mothers do. Some people hear that story and they feel sadness, but women know better, right? This is what strength looks like, surviving what was meant to destroy you and still coming home to raise your children. My mother's courage continues to cover me in every space I enter, and I call out her name and I whisper thank you every time I walk into a space and I'm able to carry her courage with me. Another woman that I would like to honor today, along with my grandmother and my mother, is my aunt, Francella Stitt. I will not say her married name because that man had my aunt murdered. Yes, her own husband hired hitmen to kill her. I want you to sit with that for a minute. Our family had to sit with that. We had to watch him and his lying ass act like he knew nothing about what had happened to my aunt. I used to call her Aunt Sweetie Pie because that's what she was. She was a woman that loved and trusted and built a life with a man. And that same man is the one who orchestrated her murder because she had found the strength to leave an abusive relationship to find her peace. As a corrections officer at Rikers Island, he solicited 2 former inmates to follow her into her apartment, beat her, and stab her multiple times. My aunt was bound and tied, and he was there when it happened. He helped them stage the scene like it was a robbery. Eventually, the light caught up to him, and he was arrested and served time for his murder. Believe it or not, our family was never the same. He served his time, he came out, and karma kicked in, and in less than 2 years, he was gone too. That same grandmother that I spoke to you about earlier, who courageously fought off muggers and made her way home for help, slowly wasted away after her oldest daughter was brutally killed. Too many women know this story personally. whether it's behind closed doors or in front of others. Love sometimes becomes violence, safety becomes danger, and home becomes the battlefield. There are women listening right now who survived the same but never told a soul. And this episode is for them too. I never had a chance to meet my maternal grandmother, Annie Lucille, because she made a life and death choice that no woman should ever have to face. She risked her own life to end a pregnancy because she knew she could not support another child, while her husband, my grandfather, who was a merchant marine, would be gone for months at a time. She decided to do it not out of selfishness, but out of survival. And she never had the chance to see her daughter grow and develop. Of course, that daughter was my mother, Miss Carrie Lee Pate. People judge what they don't understand, but they don't know what it means to be a woman with no safety net. I had the opportunity to represent the Maryland State Commission for Women as chair. And as we fight for rights for women across the state of Maryland, I stand proudly in honoring my maternal grandmother for what she stood for and what she thought she had to sacrifice. Because, see, there are many women out there who have done the same. Her decision was grief and pain, but it was also protection. She was protecting, so she thought, her husband, her my mother wasn't even 18 months when her mother passed away. You know, women carry the world, whether we understand what that looks like or feels like, but they do. And they do it even when it costs them pieces of themselves or their own lives. Well, then there's my story. I was sexually assaulted as a young woman by someone I trusted. The kind of betrayal that changes how you breathe, how you trust, and how you exist inside your own skin. I didn't tell this story for years, as we're told to always be quiet, keep your secrets safe. And when I did, I was judged for what I did and did not do. And I was not comforted for what I carried with me for so many years. But as women, we know that silence is what we are taught, right? We're taught to be quiet. Don't cause problems. Be polite. Don't make anyone uncomfortable. But real talk, silence is a graveyard, and too many women are buried in it. This podcast is my voice breaking that silence. This podcast is my healing, and it's part of my healing process. This podcast is my offering to every woman who ever thought she was alone. I survived and I thrived. But the scars are still there, and I'm still healing. But being on this spiritual journey for the past couple of years has helped me. And I feel like I'm in a space where I can share without judgment, without critique, without any other scars for me. As I think about it, and I thought about this episode and how I should shape it and the stories I needed to tell, I figured there would be some people who would say, oh my gosh, these stories are too dark or too heavy. But you know what? They need to be shared. And women who have been through this pain need to be held in the light. We need to uplift them so that others can learn and know that they are not the only ones. Women like myself, like my mother, my grandmother, and like you, we live in this every day, in every city, and at every age and in every culture. And in every income bracket, that means it is all of us. And it doesn't matter where you live, how you grew up, what your parents made, or what you made. We live this. And these stories are testaments because every woman I mentioned survived long enough to leave a legacy. That's me. This strength lives in my blood, in my purpose, and in this space that we are building together. So, if you're listening right now and you see yourself or your family in these stories, I want you to hear me clearly. Your story matters. Your pain is not your identity. Your trauma is not your destiny. And your silence is not your truth. This circle that I'm building and creating along with you is a home for women who are ready to stop the cycle of surviving and start the process of healing and thriving. So, before I close out, I want to give you an affirmation. And if you would repeat it after me, whether you want to say it loud or to yourself, I hope it helps. I honor the women who came before me, but I choose a different ending. If this episode moved you, if it felt familiar, or if it opened something in you, I hope you are staying with me through this journey. Follow the show, share the episode with a sister who carries too much but rarely speaks it. See, because this is only the beginning. I have a lot more planned to help us as women, as mamas, as grandmas, as aunties, as wives, as lovers, as friends. I have a lot in store. And we'll be talking about breaking some generational patterns and breaking out silence and the sacrifices that we pass that have been passed on through our families. And we'll also talk about some current events because all of that stuff plays a role in how we handle our lives and how we carefully manage the lives of our loved ones. So until then, I want you to be gentle with your spirit. You are becoming someone that your ancestors prayed for. Listen, I'm Dr. L, and this is the Visionary Sister Circle, where women heal, evolve, and rise together. Thank you for joining me.